So Jean-Francois, I guess we're going to start with something we talked about on Monday. I said I'd seen a tweet where you reacted to something Premier Legault had said. You didn't remember it, but I understand you found it. So let's pick up with that.
Yeah, it's interesting because you must have seen on the feed the capture of an excerpt of the a younger Legault, and then I wrote, "On s'ennuie de toi, François Legault." Okay,
Right, exactly.
and you jumped on ennui, which means you're boring us, but there's the other meaning, which is we miss you. And that was the
Oh,
meaning I was aiming for, because the excerpt is of him and as a younger self explaining how economically Quebec independence would be a better deal. So so that's what I missed,
okay.
and I'm not bored with that. Maybe you are.
No, no, no. Je pensais le mot ennui, as far as I knew, meant boring. I didn't know it had a second meaning like we miss you.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So if
Things you
someone
learn.
tells you, Aaron, that's very important for you in
Right.
your interactions with francophones. If someone tells you, Aaron, je m'ennuie de toi, he's not saying you're boring him. He's
Okay.
saying he
He misses
misses
me.
you.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. I had not known that up until that. So,
Maybe
yes,
you lost a lot of friends because of this misunderstanding.
possibly, yes. I don't even want to think about that. But you're right. The video that you posted was of a very much younger, I guess, Francois Legault, and he was still a member of the PQ, was he not?
That's right.
Talking
That's
about
right.
separation and everything else, and you're like, I miss that sort of Francois Legault. I get it now. Thank you for the clarification. Speaking of Francois Legault, new poll out showing, fair to say, in your assessment, that the PQ has pretty much reached that level because they haven't gone any higher. The CAC getting a little bit back. Are we done?
Well, we're never done in Quebec politics, Aaron. You know that, but it means that we can say that as the PQ reach its peak, is it consolidating its lead? Well, for the time being, it stays the dominant force. The CAC certainly has ended its slippage downwards, because they're ticking a bit upwards. And so they must be really relieved, because it means that the losing streak is over. How will this fare? And something that we see is the less François Legault speaks to reporters, the better his voting intentions are. You know,
That's interesting.
and so and summer is always a very good season for governments, because they shut up and people forget why they were mad at them.
Okay. Well, the good news is, what are they? They rise on Friday, I guess, right? That's the end of the spring session.
They're so lazy. I mean,
Yeah.
it's June 9th. When I was in Parliament, we stayed until June 20th, at least. Well, not at least, but June 20th was a regular date. I mean, there's more work to be done. Everything is not fixed in Quebec, Aaron.
Is it
There's
not?
still
Oh,
still work for a couple of weeks. Uh, and so, but they're rising on the night. And then there's this meeting between Trudeau and Legault on Monday,
yeah. Yeah,
where
immigration.
everything will
Yeah.
be solved on Monday. I hope
Of
we're ready
course.
for that.
Yeah, that's why they can afford to go on vacation, because everything will be solved. No question about that. All right. I would ask you, though, interesting in this poll where we say that, we trying to determine whether the PQ has basically peaked here. I thought what was really interesting was when that last poll came out showing how strong the support for the PQ was. Paul St. Pierre Plamondon could not stop talking. Every day there was something else. He was going on about something. I wonder if the end of all that, it ended up hurting him.
Well, if it had hurt, he would slip, but he's stable. So he needs to be still there to remind people why he's interesting. You see, the other interesting thing in the poll is they asked voters and the remaining Liberal voters who their favorite leader would be. And Denis Coderre drops 15 points because he's been absent. You cannot hold
Right.
a lead when you're absent. And so that's what happened to him. Now he's back. He came back yesterday from his Compostelle tour,
Mm-hmm.
and he's going to try and be in the news every day, as he sometimes achieves, and we'll see if he bounces back.
Yeah, but as the Journal de Montréal wrote, that the striptease that Denis Coderre does with these sorts of things, and he has a history of doing it, do you think, I mean, even now, and you're right, he'll probably we'll see more of him, more FaceTime, etc. Is he a spent force as a potential provincial leader, do you think, for the Liberals?
He has more notoriety than any other there.
True.
She's been active talking to regional organizers of the Liberal Party over the last months. These new guys have only started to do that. It doesn't mean they're not going to be good at it. And then it's a matter of how many membership cards do you sell. And, he's a good seller. It's going to also depend on the quality of the organizers that he can bring around himself. And there is a possible problem because he burned so many organizers before in his Montreal forays that maybe this would be his major weakness.
Okay. Let me move on and talk about one other thing, which is something that I guess we're going to wonder about for a while now. This meeting that you just talked about where Francois Legault will sit down with Justin Trudeau and talk immigration, the last time this happened, by the way, which is not that long ago, and I remember playing the clip from Justin Trudeau at the time, the answer to, what's coming of this, is Quebec going to get any more powers, is a very clear and plain no. He said Quebec already has more powers over immigration than any other province. Why would we expect this meeting to provide any other sort of details or differences?
Well, Legault is not asking for powers, okay? So Trudeau can still say no, but the wiggle room is that Legault wants more reimbursement for the $1 billion bill that he's shown Ottawa to take care of the bumper crop of refugees. He only had $150 million of this billion. He will have more. How much more? Maybe we'll see on Monday. The second thing is he wants a stronger commitment that the refugees will be scattered over Canada in a more equitable way. There's a committee that's been set up about that. The first meeting of the committee is tomorrow. So maybe Mr. Trudeau will just say, we'll let the committee continue to work. The third thing he wants is a commitment to reduce the number of temporary workers that the federal government heralds. There's been signals from the federal government that they want to do that, but maybe not as fast as Quebec wants. And the second thing is that he wants the federally chosen temporary workers to meet linguistic criteria, and we haven't heard from Trudeau. But I don't expect nothing. I expect something, but something that may or may not be looked at as real progress. But the news we had today is that Mr. Legault has been saying for a while that if he doesn't have his way, he's going to have options. And so we wanted to know what the options were. And yesterday in an interview at a radio station, he said, well, there won't be a referendum on immigration because we know the answer. It will be 65% yes. So, but there's going to be a federal election, all right? And today he said, we're looking at making immigration a central issue of the next federal election, including by the government of Quebec buying ads to make it so in the next federal election. So that's a new wrinkle.
What do you make of that?
Well, it's been tried before. The former Liberal government in Ontario bought ads during a federal election against the Conservatives. I'm not sure what the end result was. And of course, for the next federal election, there would need to be a party that could take power, which means not the Bloc, that would agree with the demands of Quebec for voters to know who to vote for. But as we speak, Pierre Poilievre has made no sign towards the Quebec position. In fact, his position is to say, I'm going to promise Quebecers the same that I promise other Canadians:
right.
More jobs, less red tape, less tax. So.
But, I mentioned this earlier when I talked about this. That we remember back, of course, to the last time Francois Legault suggested to Quebecers in a federal election that they vote Conservative, and we know how that turned out. It didn't matter at all. In fact, they lost a seat.
That's true.
Even if Pierre Poilievre was, not that Pierre Poilievre I don't think will take a stand, you can still win an election necessarily without Quebec, right? Yep. So what do you imagine? Do you imagine that Pierre Poilievre would want to stick a nose into provincial immigration here?
Well, he without being Quebec specific, he said something quite consequential about a month ago when he said we should have as many immigrants next year as the number of new houses we know we're going to build. Now, if that were so, it would be a humongous reduction of immigration targets of all sorts.
If he follows through with that. Okay,
Yeah.
understood. By the way, I understand we have reaction from Justin Trudeau already before the meeting with Francois Legault coming up next Monday, when Francois Legault asks for more powers, to which Justin Trudeau said,
no.
Okay. Jean-Francois, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right.